Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Simulation for the Nation, and more importantly, welcome along to the inaugural episode of A Growing Understanding, a series where I look to gain an insight into the thoughts and opinions of some of the community's most prolific characters. And today is no exception. I reached out to talk to my first guest here with a little expectation that he would indeed say yes, but it is with great delight that I can tell you he did. So with that in mind, I'm chuffed to introduce veteran map creator, YouTube creator, and avid farming simulator player, DustyDave. Dave, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Excellent stuff. Thank you for taking the time out to come and have a little play along today. We had a bit of a chat about what we wanted to get up to, and you said you would like to go and do some baling. So with that in mind, we are going to head up to fields 10 and 13. We've got some, I think it's wheat I cut for us today, so that's all baled, that's all swapped and ready to bale. So with that in mind, Dave, lead the way, and I'll follow you on up.
Okie dokie.
So as we kind of talked about, what's going to happen here, I am going to crash into the gatepost first of all. We're going to just bale some straw today, and as we go around this, I think it's about 10 questions for you lined up here, and we'll just run through those, get your thoughts and feelings on various different things, and then we can we'll wrap that up when we're done. But for now, I'm going to try and play catch up. I've lost you already. This is weird. I'm having to go back to keyboards. This is a weird sensation.
Yeah, it makes it a bit harder.
Get around there. I think I turned the traffic off as well, just to give us a fighting chance. I think it's the best way to put it. Okay. So, whilst we head on up here, Dave, first question for you: if you could give us like a little rewind about your kind of history here with Farming Simulator. So when you kind of first discovered it, how did that happen? And kind of like if it's been a consistent thing for you, if that makes sense. Because for me, I've kind of phased in and out of FS, and only recently really become very interested in it. So yeah, if you could give us a little bit of like a background into how your relationship with Farming Simulator has developed.
It all started in FS13, I think it was. I had a rubbish laptop, not really worthy of playing any games or anything like that. It just about play that. And I was dipping in and out of it. I wasn't really paying much attention to it. I played it on the Xbox 360, like, pretty consistently with a bunch of friends online.
Yeah.
But yeah, from that stage, it did actually kind of make me want to get a PC and actually get some mods and all that.
Yeah, and that would have been FS on the Xbox. That would have been when there were no mods available. There was just the one standard map, right?
Yeah, so yeah, it was just the Hagenstad map, just that.
Yeah, that's crazy, and it's amazing how it hooks you in there.
Yeah, and then I went on eBay, got myself it was an Intel i3 PC, just a cheapy already made one put together. Just good enough for what I wanted. And yeah, it kind of went from there, really.
Nice. Now, how do I get this bale chaser unfolded here? Operating position B. Perfect. Alright, and I'm going to come chase you down here. It's amazing how it does it, because when you start to play it, you realize like you get the interest in it on a console level, on a micro level. Then you go online and read up about it, or find a forum such as FS UK, and you realize there's a whole different world out there that you can potentially interact with and partake in.
Yeah.
And then you find out you're using all of these the phrase.
Yeah, I wasn't really aware of like FS UK or anything like that. I can't even remember how I ended up coming across it. I think I was playing on my laptop with it one day, and I just typed in on Google just FS13 mods.
Yeah.
And then obviously FS UK would be the premier search on that. Went on there and seen how good a community it was and all that, especially in the forums and stuff. You need help.
Yeah.
It's a good place to go.
Definitely.
So yeah, it just kind of hooked me from there, and then I was like full-time PC player. Then I had an Xbox One for a bit, but I was spending way too much time modding and stuff with this, so I got rid of the console completely and just
Made the
went
switch across.
full-blown PC player. It was kind of funny that, like, for how big a pain sometimes the console community can be, I actually started my FS career, so to speak, on console.
Yeah, yeah. And it's weird for me. I'm a little bit different. I started on like you, like a low-end laptop, and then I had a slightly bigger and better laptop. But then I moved around a bit, and I only had my PS4 with me. So the only logical option when I didn't even know about 2015 on a console version. It was only 2017, so I jumped on the PS4 for a bit there. So I, in a sense, was a little bit lucky that I missed out on the limited options. 2017 is fantastic.
It was very, very limited.
Yeah, and so it's great now to see, the modern community is able to distribute all of their different creations onto console versions. But I only recently made the switch back across from console because I just essentially I think what brought it down to me was that I wanted to be back in a John Deere in a class, and I couldn't get that obviously for various reasons. So yeah, I had to make the switch really. So. But yeah, it's fantastic how it's done, and I think it's really broadened the appeal, but also the reach of the game as well. Particularly now when there's
definitely, yeah. It's the console side of the market is a lot bigger than the PC side, which is mad considering this all started on PC.
Yeah, really, and it's kind of opened the eyes to a lot of different developers. I've been keeping tabs on like Gold Rush, for example, the simulator game there, and whilst they're nowhere near in terms of their abilities, it opens your eyes to say, well, if we can tap the PC market and get a good base rate game, then consoles we can kind of come into with the followings there, and then that opens up a whole new world really. I got 2 more bales left. Hey, it's a good job I fertilized this field. We're getting a heck of a yield off it. I did really well up into this corner you're on where I missed some maize, which is the worst crop to miss because it sticks out like a sore thumb. Anyway, I'm going to swing around here. Get around there. And so how did you... Because if I'm right in thinking, you're not originally from like a farming background. And it was... So where was the... You mentioned obviously 2015 was the first version of the game you found. What drew you to it from a non-farming perspective, or without kind of having that... the way I look at it from like a farm background, you've always got the... You can take the boy off the farm, but you can't take the farm out of the boy kind of thing. So it's always there. But I'm just really intrigued to see how someone who doesn't really necessarily come from that background, where the fascination comes from, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm not completely out of farming background. I have got a slight one on my mum's side. Like pretty much, I'm the first male on that to come from that side of the family not to work in the clay industry or farming.
Oh wow, okay.
But I used to work on a racing yard, like point-to-point horse racing. So we used to work around horses all the time and that. And we had one tractor, a Zeta 7245. So that's the only tractor we had around. It was a small farm. When I first went up, used to go up there, I was about 8 years old. And they had some bullocks up there, but it's nothing, not what I would call farming, It's just making some haylage bales once a week, once a year. That's about as busy as the place got.
Yeah.
But I've always been into heavy machinery, everything from excavators right through tractors and everything like that since, as long as I can remember. Okay. Just boys and their toys, I think.
Exactly, yeah. The fascination of big shiny things will never cease.
Nah, that's it.
Okay. Oh, I'm behind you now. Quick, I need to catch up. And so was that clay mining is that just something that's in the region because of the
local to where I am.
Oh, cool. That's kind of interesting. And so there's always, I grew up in an area that had quite a few surface coal mines around, so I imagine it's a similar kind of thing where there's just always massive big, essentially Tonka toys, huge big trucks and excavators just doing their thing, and that's always something that's alluring.
I'm quite into railways and that as well.
Okay.
And we had all the clay loading area just down the road from me. It was just a push bike away, and as a young kid seeing massive great trains and the shunting yards and all that was quite quite an attraction.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine that. can frequently remember spending summer holidays, exactly the same kind of scenario when I was too young to work on one of our family farms, being like just shipped out on my push bike to go and like sit on this hill that overlooked this surface mine, and just spending God knows how many hours just watching. Maybe take some sandwiches up and just sit there. That was pretty much my childhood.
My friends used to say, like, how can you go and sit and watch that? That's boring. How have you got any interest in it? I don't know. Just to me, it was fascinating, and I've got like quite an interest in engineering. That's why I went college and did and that. But it was just, it's always things like that. It's always just kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah, and then I guess it's kind of like a chance introduction really to a simulator game such as this, and then it ticks all those boxes, but then once, like we were just saying, you start to deep dive into it and find out what the game can actually do, and it extends to so much more than just maybe solving an addiction to your passion. It's kind of tweaks various different interests, like you say, and from an engineering standpoint, when you go into modeling or to mapping, it can really kind of work all of those specific interests, I guess. Yeah,
and I got quite an active imagination, I'd say. Like, for me, the easiest part is designing a map. It's the little technical bits of putting field definitions and stuff like that, and it like actually bores me. I like to run through my imagination. Like, this map here was a blank canvas, no planning in it whatsoever. I literally loaded up the editor one day, flat map, put a water plane in, and went to town with a terrain brush, and that's how this ended up like this.
Nice. Well, I want to definitely get onto your kind of your creative side in a little bit. Now, if we look at like, so let's say your kind of involvement within the FS community or within the FS game has been kind of 2015, 2013 onwards. What would be the favorite version of the game, or is there a particular asset of one of the versions of the game we've had that has been like something that's really stuck out to you as being like the best feature that we've ever had, or the most intriguing feature to you?
I'd probably say like FS13 being the first one. It was really like intriguing to me, especially with all like the mods and that was out for that, and like NI modding was like in full stream
go at
that point. So that was pretty good. But I reckon definitely this is the best. Loads of people love to say like how like 11 and 13 were the best days and that, but how Giants have actually raised the game with this, and like adding, it's not everyone's favourite, but adding like things like sugarcane and stuff like that, trying to keep a game going and motivated throughout its career before the next game comes out.
Yeah.
So I don't like the sugarcane aspect of it, but I think it's quite smart how they've managed to bring it in, and especially bring it in and not have to mess with the game too much.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a consistency there whilst also providing a completely new avenue in which to explore. Like for me, for example, I'm like you. The sugarcane didn't really appeal to me in any way, but I still, I could see the benefit of it. And if you're reaching a global audience, then a lot of gamers live in continents and parts of the world where they don't grow canola, or they don't grow barley, but they have fields upon fields of sugarcane. So it's more relevant to those guys, I suppose. And it's always nice to see that they don't just implement a new fruit type. They implement a new fruit type whilst also providing the entire range of machinery to go with it.
Yeah, I think it's too easy to forget that we're not the only ones playing this. You think, sugarcane, that's boring.
Yeah.
And like, especially with like the size of the equipment and all that, doing like 3 rows at a time is not exactly fun. But we're not in like South America. That's a massive region. Like, I think that's where the map's based and stuff like that they put into the Platinum.
Yeah, definitely.
So like they have definitely got like a wider audience to reach, and it's quite easy to forget that. And I think that is like part of the problem within the community with stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that when you, if you look at just since 2017 came out, was released, So obviously we've had the Coon DLC which arrived, which was very much in my mind like a European focus. You know, European sized equipment, European branding, and a lot of interest from the European gamers there. But then Big Bud came out not too long after that, which is very much like a North American focus. Huge equipment that would never really fit onto maps such as yours here, or any of the other kind of more European British style games. But that would appeal to so many players in different markets that it really adds a new level to those guys. And then what's really struck me with 2017, we had glimpses of it towards the end of 2015 with like the soil mod, for example, but with Seasons this year, Seasons is just something that's like a complete game changer. You know, it's, if you really want to focus on that realistic and as lifelike as possible, and you want to stick to it, and you know you have a passion for following as you would on a real life farm, then it's perfect for that, because it allows you to be able to completely replicate what's happening in the real world. So for that, it is really fascinating.
Yeah, for them to get Seasons into the base game as well for console, they've done
incredible.
Yeah, an incredible job. They really have. I don't think people give Giants enough credit for the work. Well, and Realmus for the effort. From what I understand, it was 3 to 4 months.
Wow,
extensive working in partnership.
Yeah,
to
incredible.
Get that mod onto console.
That is incredible.
And I can imagine lengthy talks with Sony and Microsoft because they're strict on scripting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's fascinating to see that, because you know, with the PS4 and Xbox, you do have some great power there for graphics and visuals. So what Season has the ability to add so much more to a game in terms of the light settings or the textures, and to be able to harness the power of a console with that is really quite something. All the while still trying to, one can only assume that Giants, whilst implementing console Seasons on consoles, were still building the latest or the future versions and testing new mods and testing uploads and maps and everything else. So to be able to harness both of those two things is really quite something.
Yeah. I think they got quite a small team there. I don't think they're it's not like EA where they've got offices all over the world, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a small testing team for the mods coming in, and then obviously you've got them prepping for the next game, their DLCs that they're bringing out as well. So they got their hands full for what they are.
Absolutely, and it's really great to see as well that obviously there's a lot of different content producers out in the world who are making videos on all of these other farming simulator platforms that are arriving. I think Farming Dynasty is the most recent one. So they're at a point now where they've got to keep pushing because the competition is getting better and better. Cattle and Crops is, in my mind at least, the nearest contender. I still think there's a long way to go for them to be compared in the same conversation.
I think there's a between all of them, it's good that they're finally getting competition in their field, but I think they're a solid rock for a few years yet. I don't think any other game's got the legs yet to try and compete with Giants.
I mean, I've always had a bit of a niggling issue with some aspects of the game engine for Farming Simulator. I get around it, and I still kind of make the most of playing it, but there's little niggles that kind of gripe me a bit. But if you just look at any of the Giant stock models, any of the tractors, for example, that they like the vanilla range, the detailing on those tractors can't really be beaten. And when, in my mind, when you factor in that they're also officially licensed and branded, then that's a whole
that's where they
level.
Close a lot of the market off with that.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's there's a lot of rumors always flying around about who will be the next brand or what will be happening, but it's there is always at least one new edition every new release. So that's going to be interesting. Now I have my ideas who I would like to see come in, but then I'll be happy with whoever. And you always know that at some point it doesn't take long for the community to start releasing mods and get everything back up to where perhaps it could be or should be.
I was over the moon when I discovered that Fent was coming back into this game and not as a mod. So I've already got my favourites in the game. I'm
I like the I'm a big Fent fan. It would be nice to have John Deere, but then I always have at least one Fendt within the game anyway, so it's, you know, I'm pretty much there. I just think from a combine standpoint, the class would be unrivaled for me. Like to have a nice new Lexion and maybe an old Dominator or something in there would be pretty special. But I'm not sure if that will ever happen, given that Cattle and Crops seem to have a license there. But
I think they've got a tight grip on class though.
Which was a smart move by them, because clearly they saw that, you know, a lot of the other big players have been moving around, so maybe it's lock those guys down, and then at least you have one good thing fighting for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to move across a bit, as I mentioned, to kind of your like your creativity. Now, obviously, it's probably fair to remark that, like, when I say we, like the community, know DustyDave best as kind of like a creator. Now, I was having a quick think before, off the top of my head, of the maps that I can like attribute to your work here. So I have, obviously, we're on Dustycove here. I've got Penberlin, which is hopefully on its way soon. We've got Orchard Farm, Ventonwin, and was it Horning Tops that you were working on as well?
Yeah, I've got that. And in FS15, I had Willow Tree Farm.
Willow Tree Farm.
Which was the 15 contest map, but then I redid a version of it properly for near the end of the game.
Okay, that's kind of cool. And as you mentioned earlier that, you know, you kind of stumbled onto this having been a fan of like just the game in general and kind of exploring what options there were within the game. What do you have, like a specific element of the mapping that really appeals to you? Like if we look at Dustycove here, for example, you mentioned you started this as like a blank canvas with just the terrain there and that idea to put like a water plane in the middle. What is there a certain aspect that you find very satisfying or challenging, or is there certain any side of mapping that really keeps you like drawn into it and wanting to produce another map than another map? I mean, for those who don't know, I'm currently working on my own at the moment, and there are times when I feel like I want to close the file down and never look at it again because it's just frustrating. I mean, what drives you through that to keep going?
I think I need rehab. I think I'm just pure and simple addicted. I just like you come from in 15. Orchard Farm was my most played map in 13, and one Saturday I was just like, I can't play this game any longer because there's no maps that I want. So then I went on YouTube, looked at a couple tutorials, and instantly hooked from that second.
Okay. And then it just developed into what it is now. And how did you find it initially as like a learning curve? I mean, again, for me, I'd probably say like the first couple of days of trying to make something happen on Giants was just the most infuriating, frustrating couple of hours at the computer I would ever experience, because I just couldn't get things to move the way I wanted to. Did you find any kind of frustrations with the whole process, or anything that really drove you crazy?
When it comes down to the XMLs and text files, things like that, I mean, they've got fairly complicated in 17. When 17 come out, you basically had to learn modding again, because so many aspects had changed to make it compatible for console.
Oh, I see.
And the XML side of it, I don't enjoy that one little bit. Nothing on that side interests me at all. If I could have somebody to do that for me, I'd be over the moon.
You need to find yourself like an apprentice, someone who's good with code and can just start to do all your scripting for you.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to things like implementing seasons and all that, because now it is an expected feature in the game, and it would be silly really to put out a map that isn't seasons ready.
Yeah.
And stuff. And when you've got like all your different like texture folders for like your weeds and your trees, bushes, things like that, then you can open up Notepad++ one day and just look at it, and it just looks like a bunch of alien scripting on the page. It doesn't look right.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm kind of dabbling in that side of things a little bit, but at the moment I'm kind of keep procrastinating on that as much as possible by keeping myself away and drawn into just like the visual side of things, so making things look pretty and at the moment, as you know from our discussions, trying to line up roads pretty much at the moment.
Yeah, that's not a very it's a very slow process of putting roads in.
And the thing is, though, like I think we were discussing this previously, there's no way around it. You know, you can't. That has to be kind of the primary thing you put in, because that shapes the entirety of your map. Everything else kind of works off of how the roads are looking. And so if you don't have those lined up and in shape, then you might as well just not bother, because it's probably going to change.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's especially when you make fiction maps.
Yeah.
You know, when you're making them up as you go along, if you haven't got like a road network to work your way off, it can get a bit confusing. Especially when you start doing your field shapes and stuff, and then like you think, hang on a minute, I may actually need a road through there.
Yeah.
So
they end up just like cobbling together some little dirt track.
Is an important feature.
And for
it'd be nice just to stick dirt lanes everywhere and then just put fields into that, but I don't think that would really grab the community as a good map.
No, exactly. I mean, you could try and pass it off as like being a pre-First World War map where we hadn't started to put many roads in.
Yeah,
that's not going to fly with many.
No, not at all. Especially with no traffic and stuff, because like now we have got, well, we've always had traffic, but like you got the traffic and everything like that. It makes the map come alive a bit.
It does, and
it's a bit weird not to have like a small village at the very least on a map as well. So you've got pedestrians walking around, so it gives the map a bit more life.
Yeah, like when I'm doing my kind of I call it off-camera work for any of my series that I have going. There's always that period where I might use Courseplay or Follow Me to bring machines backwards and forwards, and I'll always turn off traffic, because I know that whatever machine's coming behind me, there's like a 90% chance it will crash into a pickup truck somewhere, and it's just like the law of Farming Simulator that the AI traffic will cause many issues. But then at the same time, when I jump back into the game and the traffic's still turned off, it feels empty. You know, it feels like you're missing a certain facet of the game.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like, there's a funny thing about Dustycove that I found. When you're leaving the store, heading down to the store, like, you obviously have the little strip of shops there, and there's like a pedestrian crossing where the pedestrians always walk over. I must have run over at least like 20 different pedestrians on that street, because like obviously they're on their spline where they're walking, and they're not going to stop for you, but I keep thinking that they're going to stop for some reason, and so I've gone through so many pedestrians on that little stretch of High Street. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've done the same coming out of the shop at Penberlin as well, because you've got them walking up and down the village on that map, and it would be interesting actually, like in FS19, to have interactive splines, so they do actually,
like they're aware
say they're going to
of
step off a pavement, they do actually stop.
Yeah, that's interesting. Who knows? I mean, I feel like maybe Giants will like kind of enhance their game engine a little bit, but there's enhancing the game engine, but I think because we're still using, my understanding, the same engine from previous versions, that it can only be like kind of upgraded so much. There will come a time where maybe they have to replace their entirety, so they're probably not going to look to do a whole world of updates and kind of push it beyond its capabilities. But it'll be interesting to see what they've got in mind.
I think the game engine is coming to the end of its life now. I think it was the Unity engine they've used.
I think,
and it's the same engine since since they started. But obviously they've got the grips with it.
Yeah, really shook it up.
Now. So yeah, it's been around a long time, and what they have managed to do with it is
it's
pretty
really
good.
Impressive, really impressive.
Yeah. But I do think it will come to a point where a new engine will be needed.
Definitely.
But then, what does that mean for the modern community? Then does it?
Well, that's it.
Are you going to be able to bring things across? Are you going to have to start everything from scratch? I mean,
would Giants
in a way, it'd be good. I think
still?
a clean slate would be a good thing.
Oh, 100%,
especially now with the console community being so big.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting. You would like to hope that they would change their GE to allow it to work with whatever new engine. My worst fear would be that if they introduced, a new game engine where only models made in Maya would work, and that's going to cut off a lot of people who are interested, because that's an extensive program that costs a lot of money to implement and is completely different to how it works to something like GE. So you're going to really stifle that community because of a change in the engine. So I would like to think they wouldn't do that, because they value the community and the input, but it's maybe there are restrictions as to what they could do. But it'd be definitely very
I
interesting
think they
to
could
see.
probably update to a newer Unity engine, because I don't think it's the newest engine of Unity that they are running. But
I see. Okay, very interesting.
It would be it'd be interesting to see on a different engine, say the Unreal Engine, how they would actually go about making the maps. Would they make a version of GE for that? Because if it's Blender, then I'm done. I've tried to get into Blender so I can make models for my map, and it's just not happening.
No. Is that kind of rage quit, shut the computer off and just go and have some quiet time rage?
Yeah, it's click off of it, uninstall. I might think about that again in 6 months' time.
Well, I've completely forgotten about how irate I was at the time. We'll come back to it. I like it. And so from a... if there are any budding kind of modders or map makers out there, of which I kind of include myself in that because I'm still on the learning curve, what would be your kind of one piece of advice you would pass on to anyone who's looking to start something? Maybe...
Take your time and have patience.
Okay.
Learn from something which I have a nasty habit of doing, and actually finish one project at a time. Don't overload yourself and do 4 maps at a time like I try to do, because it just gets overwhelming and it gets a bit too much, especially when you've got the community asking for the maps as well.
Yeah.
So I say, just take your time, be patient, 1 map at a time. Nice. Or 1 mod, depending on what you're doing.
And I suppose because they're all, I can see the appeal. Let's say you're working on the map that you've either lost interest on, or you're stuck at a point and you can't figure out why it's not working, or there's something that you want to add, like seasons for example, and you just can't implement it. So I can see why there would be frustrations there to kind of stop that for a while and jump onto something new, something fresh. And there's always the excitement of starting a new map where you're just going crazy with the texture brush, and you're just creating fields left, right and centre without finishing anything. So I can see where the incentive would be there to do that, but then at some point they're all going to bottleneck at the same kind of point
they
of development.
all come together, and then you've just got to grit your teeth and stick with it. That is half my problem. Once I've built a map, like I say, I have no interest in the XMLs or anything. I find that so boring and tedious.
Yeah.
And then I end up, before I know it, starting a new map, and I'm thinking, well, I haven't finished that one yet, and everyone's expecting that map, and I've moved on to a new one.
Yeah. And it's not easy.
I for FS19, like a kind of a New Year's resolution thing, but a new games resolution, is to stick at a map, get it out, then move on.
Yeah.
Stop skipping around.
And there's as we're now in 2018 here, and FS19 is kind of fast approaching. Really, it's usually kind of in the spring of the year before, or the fall. Sorry, so logic would state we'd kind of look to see that in maybe end of September, October this year.
Yeah, it's normally I think mid-October.
Yeah,
around that time.
Now, if that's the case, then this is something that I've started to think about as well. How quickly for the map I'm working on, how quickly would that be able to get finished? Is it worth, realistically, am I going to have the time in which to finish it before 19 comes around? Or is it going to be one of these things where you get so far through the map and then 19 rolls around and then you're stuck there with this idea of, well, do I try and finish this or see if it's possible to convert it to 19 from 17, or is it just worth pressing reset and starting again on a map for 19?
I would say I'd keep going with a map right up until, well, even after 19's out, because the experience you'll get from doing a map even at this time, and you've got 7-8 months until the next one's out.
Yeah, that's true.
And the experience from that will be second to none as it is. But the amount of people that will stick with the previous game for so long until you get a good steady stream of mods out, you'll still get a popular map. I mean, a friend of mine in the community, Farm, he released Battle Down for FS15 right at the end, literally just as FS17 come out. Yeah. And it's got thousands of downloads as far as I know, and still a popular map even though the next game was out when that one released. because the amount of people that are unwilling to move on without mods, because mods are such a big thing to this game.
Yeah, and it's fascinating now. There's I watched the SimStations channel, or Flatlander as he's known on FS UK. And he mentioned something really interesting. He was like kind of the first person who introduced me to more realistic and all of the benefits of more realistic. And he is of the opinion, personally for himself, that when 19 rolls around, if there isn't like a pre-built version of more realistic within the game, then he would stay on FS17, sorry, until that time arrives when someone converts it, when Dural converts it across to 19, because he just doesn't want to go back to using vanilla equipment. And you know, when you go from using a tractor with more realistic to one like I'm in now, which doesn't have it, it is very different in terms of how it handles, and you can really notice that something's not quite the same. And so I'm sure there are a lot of people who would do the same because they don't want. I don't know what it is that Giants don't like, but when they release their stock maps with the game, they don't like hedgerows, and they don't like anything other than square fields for the hired worker aspect. So those maps just don't really appeal to certainly a large portion of the European players. So that there's that incentive there to stay on something like 17, where you know you'll have the West Coast, Oakfield, Valley View, and whatever else comes around that can really, really help you or really appeal to you. So you might as well hang on for maybe like a couple of months, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't think the community moves over. You know, as soon as 19's out, they'll bin this one off, because I think this one has been a step up in the modern as well.
Oh yeah,
I think it's probably been the best in that region since the early games.
Definitely, I think so. I think that 15 was the latter end of 15 was good, but the rest of it, it was okay. The maps were great, and we saw a big improvement, I think, through 15 of mapping. You know, if we look at like yourself, you released a lot of good maps. Auction David, Bullet Bill really upped their game as well, so that really changed the kind of the ability and the creativity of map makers. But I think from a modern standpoint, it was probably not as good as earlier games.
No, it was the only way you can kind of describe it is as dull. The game just didn't feel like it had any life to it.
Definitely.
It's kind of a hard one to explain. I didn't really like 15 like that, and I'm glad that 17 was like a complete turnaround, really.
Yeah. And I wonder if it's like a passing of a generation almost, where, you know, some, like NI Modern, obviously, for their various reasons, stopped making mods as a company, really. And, you know, you might have some mod makers who just leave the game in the community, so you're waiting for others to develop that skill and really come into it. And so maybe 15 was that period where, you know, you have some of the younger makers who are really starting to get to grips with things. Someone like Matt XJS, for example, who makes fantastic mods, really great models. He obviously needed a little bit of time to kind of understand what he was doing and how he was making those mods and how they'd react and work. So maybe that was 15 for him, and then 2017 rolled around and you start to produce the content that we know.
Yeah,
from him.
Yeah, definitely. I think every few years you probably would end up with that, as like you say, like the generation moves on.
Yeah.
So, like, when some people are quitting, some people are just starting. So, you could end up with a backlog, so to speak. And then, like, 15, I'd probably say that is a good description of 15, really, because it did feel just a bit dull.
Yeah, definitely. I never really thought about it like that until today, but yeah, it definitely makes sense. So if we move on a bit here, obviously we have the Modern Mania competition on the kind of creeping up on us very quickly now, actually. Really
a bit
not
too
far
quickly.
away. A bit too quickly. So you're, as many will probably know, you're currently working on Valley View for Modern Mania. How's that coming along? Is there anything you can kind of share with us to provide an insight into its current development, how you're feeling about it, if there's anything you're still kind of...
Loving it, because I'm still building it. I haven't got to the XML part yet. So, still loving it at the minute.
So still in like the honeymoon.
It's just short of a full 2x2. It's not quite a full 2x2.
Oh wow!
There's like a big tree border with mountain range in behind it on one side. I'd probably say it's about 70% built.
Nice.
I haven't really got that much left. Just like the main town and like the cow farm and the pig farm, and a lot of grass, because the map is mainly pretty much 60% of the map is arable, because the style of my play has kind of changed a bit more to arable farming than animals. So it's kind of translated into that. And I think the key factor is, with the problems with MR, with hills, I don't think MR will work very well on that map, which could be a big killer for the map. Because I'm a little bit worried about that side of things.
It's fascinating because I think I was talking to you the other day about it, and how, you know, MR influences a lot of things that, you know, everyone will be driving around in like the Fendt 1050s just to pull a 10-ton trailer of like barley up a hill, because otherwise any other tractor just kind of chokes. I had a vanilla in-game Fendt 939 taking the big pack from the straw add-on up the right-hand side hill on the map. There was pictures of it on FS UK. You can actually see which hill I'm on about there. And it was literally going up the hill about 9 miles an hour. And that's not even powered on or anything like that. Wow. So,
with MR on top of that, because MR bounces off the game physics and over-exaggerates things like that, you know, it's not Darrell's fault. It's Giant's physics, which is at fault. So it exaggerates, like, hills and stuff like that. And, so I'm a little bit worried like that, especially how big MR has got. But we'll see.
I'm sure
people might like how picturesque it is.
It's and that will be a big asset. You know, a lot of people don't kind of part use MR, I would say, and I'm trying to use it as much as possible. But there are times where I just find that it's not the most realistic. There's a hill on the west coast where pretty much any machine you have stops, and you know, or the other side of it is, it like going down hills in the field, you suddenly find yourself baling at like 25 miles an hour. There's things like that could, in theory, could be looked at. The way that machines handle, in terms of how, if you lift an implement up on the back of a tractor, that you know you've got something heavy on the back of your machine. That is really, really good. And again, like I say, it's not Jarrell's fault or lack of work. It's just something that the Giants' physics. I reckon the detail in the scripting that Jarrell's put in exposes flaws in
the Giants' side
system of Giants. But you know, maybe that's something they'll look to adjust moving down the line. But I think that a lot of people would sooner remove a mod such as MR or Seasons to get better enjoyment out of a game. You know, you've found a lot of people remove Seasons because if you've got 2 or 3 game saves on at the same time, Seasons puts you at the same stage of every game. You know, you're cultivating to start with in the spring, and you've got to do that across all games. So if you want to jump straight into a game and pull out the combine, then you're going to just remove that and just enjoy the map and some combining. So I don't think from my standpoint at least, I think it might affect it a little bit, but I think it should be great, really. I think people can see past that for the good of an enjoyable map.
Yeah, I'm hoping so anyway.
Alright. Hey, I nearly caught up with you there as well. I was right on your tail. I'm just leaving random piles of stacks of straw around here now. Okay. And so you think at 70% through, you think you'll get finished in time? Is there a time frame when maps have to be submitted for any kinds of testing, or is that all on you?
February 28th. They've got to be in.
February 28th. And when is the announcement made? When's the decision?
I was looking at this earlier. 31st of March, I think it is, just in time for Matt's
the
classic DLC. Yeah,
I can't wait for that,
because that's the prize for it. So if it saves me some money, then
why not?
Happy.
a good map with something like with a really good like mod pack to use as well would be the ideal scenario.
Yeah, definitely. It's a shame really that I couldn't have put like Horning Tops into it, because that map was pretty much built. I would have had it done and ready for testing by now.
Yeah,
but like with the rules of the mod in one, then
it had to be like a brand new map.
Yeah, or not one that wasn't like posted about with work in progress topics. Yeah. But I'm pretty keen to get my work out there and show it off. So
absolutely.
Pretty much as soon as I got a single bit of road in the ground, I'm putting pictures on FS UK of it.
I've been so tempted to do that. I mean, like kind of a look behind the glass here. I sent you a photo the other night of like how my progress was going, and I don't want to like. Let's just say that one area I sent you was the area that's had like most of the attention. So if I look the other way behind the camera, there's absolutely nothing. There's like a bit of a lumpy terrain and nothing. So I want to get, I don't want to keep spamming everyone with photos of like an hour's work and what it looks like. So I'm in two minds. At the same time, I want to show it off, but because I'm really proud of as a newbie what kind of how it's going. But at the same time, I don't want people to be scrolling down FS UK and like, oh, for God's sake, that's some more photos of like a lumpy bit of terrain.
It definitely comes to. I mean, for Valley View, I waited. I got a late start on it because I was waiting for Robbie's Road Pack to come out because the dual carriageway is the crown and jewel of the map. Really, it like weaves its way through the bottom of the valley.
Oh, nice.
So I was waiting on that, especially for his bridge overlay section of that.
Yeah, that's really good.
And that night when it got released, I put the bridge overlay in, sorted the terrain, put some weeds around, put a couple trees in, and yeah. So then I took a light shot, took a picture in GE, and posted that as my announcement. And then from there, it was another week when I had done some of the main town layout. And from there, it was a month until I posted again, because anything I wanted to show off would have shown incomplete stuff.
Yeah.
And that. So I just worked on and on and on until I got something I could take decent photos of.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want people to be drawn in by it, and you want them to be excited by it. You don't want them to look at it and go, "Well, that doesn't look finished."
No, that's it.
Definitely. Cool. Well,
it's never a complete thing, but
no,
you don't want to be showing them.
And that's what
just
the
a
whole
flat bit of standard terrain.
Exactly. That's what the whole work in progress title is about, I guess. But yeah, you want to be able to show something off at the end of the day. So we are about to finish here. I have a few little quick questions we'll fire through. The first one, what would you, obviously with FS19 coming, what would you like to see arrive? Is there one feature, one crop type, one machinery manufacturer?
Yeah, I'll go crop type miscanthus. I was raging about this the other day in my live stream.
Nice.
Miscanthus is just one of them crops I'd love to see in the game.
That's a curveball. I like that. Now, is miscanthus, would that be used as an energy crop? Is that a
yeah.
Okay.
So like you could take it to like the BGA, or you could have like we've got the placeable heating.
Yeah.
You could take it there, sell the bales.
And would that be harvested through a class Jaguar or something with a mace header on the front, or is there a certain?
Yeah, that's the way it seems to be done in the UK. I don't know about other countries, but they could take their New Holland, they got the license, just have it, swath it instead of chaff it.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible. Like you wouldn't have anything different than a potato planter. That's what they plant the rhizomes with. It's pretty much a glorified potato planter. So. The equipment's there, it just needs slight tweaking. It's probably the easiest thing to put in because you wouldn't need from the ground up machinery. Yeah. Just a bit of re-scripting.
No, that's definitely, and yeah, like I say, just an extra line of code somewhere and it's done pretty much.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Well, that's an answer I didn't expect. So some quick fire questions just to finish up. As I think I've left a bale in the middle of the field, but I'm not going back for that. It's done right now. What's your favourite map of all time across any platform and any version of the game?
Oh, that's a tough one. Say Orchard Farm holds a dear place in my heart, but it would probably have to be West Coast for me. It's had the most gameplay out of me in the last 3 games.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Pretty stunning map.
Yeah, it's that is really the game changer. What Bullet Bill and Oxygen David can do together when they combine their efforts is outstanding. And
Oakfield is amazing. I haven't put much time in on it, so I can't really say whether it's my favourite yet. But
just from the initial,
it's an amazing map.
Yeah, I bet. And what gets me about the West Coast, obviously it was originally intended to arrive in 15. So like I remember there being all this build up and hype about it because it was coming and everyone was getting anxious and awaiting its arrival, and it never quite made it out for various different reasons, I'm sure. But that anticipation just carried over to 17, and I remember when Bullet Bill put up the first new forum post about it in 17, everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's actually coming back again! This is ridiculous."
Yeah,
it was
a very anticipated map. I've never seen any hype for any kind of map apart from that one.
Yeah.
Around the Black Sheep Modern, their maps are pretty anticipated, but mainly by European players.
Yeah, it's got more of a mainland continental Europe feel about it, I guess. That's true. I haven't actually looked at any of their maps yet because I can't pull myself away from the West Coast. I've only just finished the series on Culver Park Farm again because it keeps coming back to that. I was mentioning the other day that I have a continuous game save on Culver Park Farm. It's not something I go to all the time, but it's there, and it's just there.
Yeah.
If I've got an hour and I don't have to do anything on the West Coast or wherever else, I'll just jump onto that for a little bit, and it's really quite something. All right, next question. Favorite mod of all time, something that perhaps changed the series and your enjoyment.
See, no, it would have been like the Fent tractors and that, but they come standard now in this game. So the Rock 1000 Windrower, the Coon package, like the DLC, that had its own version of that, like the Coon competition version of it. But that mod there, I think it came out in 15 first of all. Yeah, that was quite an interesting mod, really, for what it was. You could send it like to the middle, to the outsides, and all that. It was quite complicated, but it was quite a fun mod at the same time.
And also, again, something that I think that's more common from like a European standpoint. More common, like I think Germany use that quite a lot. But the main, like in the UK particularly, it's mainly like rotor rakes. So like the big your big windrows, your Kuhn, and your Class, or your Krone rakes, like the orbital rakes. Whereas we don't see something which is essentially like one long auger pickup reel shoving it one way or the other, like you say. So that was quite something to see that come in. And it kind of brought about a completely different approach to something which is a lot of people see as kind of like a monotonous task of like rowing up silage or hay. Just, it's not the fun part. It's not the baling or the silaging. It's the part that someone's got to do because you can't do it otherwise.
Probably actually my favourite mod, like because of things like that, probably has to be like Follow Me. Just due to the fact when I'm cutting, I can TED straight after. I don't have to do it as a separate job.
Yeah. Or if I like it when you've got when you're lifting silage as well. You can get the tractor and trailer just to stay where it needs to be on the left or right side, and you can actually do it without having to trail the trailer behind the forager. That's really good. Okay, so when let's say you're working deep in GE, you're on Valley View, and you're doing like 3 or 4 hours of road alignment or something like that. Do you have a favorite podcast or genre of music or like YouTube stream that you'll sit and watch whilst you do it?
I normally just like put on Spotify and just put on like the random playlist that they got on there. But the past few months I've discovered, like, I'm quite into motocross and things like that.
Okay.
And I've discovered this moto vlogger called Vroom Vroom Dana. And him and his friend Joey Mack, they're both YouTubers and that. And I pretty much, because I got dual screen set up, I'll have G on one and I'll have that on the other. I'm not always watching the YouTube channel, but I've got it there just listening, and it just adds something there instead of just like
a little bit
silent.
of background noise.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much I just like listen to videos, I'd say, rather than watch them.
Awesome. And finally, let's say there's someone who is brand new to the farming simulator community. Now, what I was gonna, I've kind of changed my approach with this. This was gonna be a question about the favorite kind of farming simulator personality across the community. But what would you say would be like the 3 best things if you were to describe the farming simulator community to like a complete novice or someone new to it? What would be the 3 things you would tell them to do or look at or kind of research?
what to like say, like what are the best points about like the community about joining this?
How would you sell the community in three steps?
Mod support is really good. You know, the modding community itself, you know, there's only a small portion of it that lets it down, but the mod community itself is a strong community, I think.
Yep.
Oh, got me thinking on this one.
Save the best to last.
It's kind of hard to say, really, because it's not something that I've ever really thought about.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's... I definitely think it's the support of the modern community itself is great, but then what I love is... Okay, so let's say I'm building a mod and I have no idea, I'm stuck on something. I can go into FSUK and type in, make one quick thread about, you know, I can't get my wheels to stay on the right way around or something on this tractor I'm building, for example. And then there'll be about 4 or 5 replies almost immediately. Have you looked at this? Have you done this? Have you got this problem? XYZ. And, you know, so it's not only the mods themselves, but also the support of modders for modders, really, which is great. I think that's really nice. Yeah,
it is especially when you once you've got like, you know, got through the initial stages and you are like starting to speak regularly to some of the other modders and that, then you've got like somebody backing you up as the, you know, somebody who's got your back, and they won't do it for you, but they'll give you the very best advice they can to help you get through that.
Definitely.
So you got a good amount of support within this game.
Excellent. I'm just actually having a look inside this case of Optum because I haven't seen it in here before. Alright, wow, there's a lot of different IC controls here. Good lord. Alright, cool. Well, I am going to leave this here. I would say, Dave, thank you very much for being not only very helpful in helping me set this up, but also being the first to take the brave step to complete it. But yeah, it's been great.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. And we will get this out as soon as possible, and I'm sure we'll kind of advertise it across our respective pages. And yeah, hopefully everyone enjoys it when you listen. If you have been watching this, and if you've made it all the way through, thank you very much for watching. As always, do go and check out DustyDave's channel, which is it a YouTube channel? Is it just DustyDave?
Just DustyDave.
I'll put a link in the description below. And also your Facebook page is DustyDave Modding, is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll put a link in the description below for that as well. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, if you have enjoyed this, do remember to hit that like button and drop a comment below. Drop a comment below if there's anyone in particular you would like us to get on here and see if we can interview those guys as well. But until next time, thank you very much for watching. As always, stay safe, enjoy what you're doing, but most importantly, happy farming.